Pump it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peeps that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. We made it to the end of the week. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I want to welcome you to a Feel Good Friday, y'all. You know the thespian in me jumps for joy when I have theater folks in the building. So I'm excited because we're going to be talking about some theater things later on in the show. And you know what? I just want to thank all of you. And so I'm going to do a great wrap up for all of y'all today. Because honestly, you know, when we get to Friday, we want to feel good. We want to get ourselves prepared for the weekend. So that's always a must right here on the Day with Trae. So we're going to try to make sure we give you some of that today too. But of course, it is the top of the show, y'all. It's the best time to tag and share. You get to participate with us. You're helping us grow. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with folks who you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on the Day with Trae. And if you can't watch our show, we still have you covered. Because you know what? You can listen to our show anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and the Day with Trae. You'll find me on whichever platform is your favorite, y'all. Well, I'm excited. I get to get into some theater things. We got Brodrick Ryans in the building from the Underground Theater, or TUT as they call themselves. What's up, Brodrick?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I can't complain. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I got to talk to Chris Black earlier this week.
Yeah.
We were talking about brown bodies on a blue earth.
Yep.
And this is the first time this show is hitting the main stage. But I want to, before I get into that show, I always got to ask people, like, what is your background? What got you to say, I need to be in theater?
That's a that's a big question. I would say I've always been acting my entire life. Saturdays in my house growing up with my parents were always kind of a let's like have fun and vibe day. But ultimately, my older brother in high school, I was a freshman, he was a senior, and he was like, hey, you should take this class with me and my friends. I think it was his way of protecting me. And it was a theater class. And the teacher asked me if I wanted to be in Grease that year as a musical. And then from there, it just stuck.
So you continued on, and it's really interesting because when you start in front of the stage, you often sometimes find yourself behind the stage.
Yeah.
Tell us about that transition for you.
Yeah, so currently in my 9-to-5 job, I work as the casting associate and artistic liaison for the Fifth Avenue Theater here in downtown Seattle. And I've always kind of had this creative vision to direct or do casting, whatever situation is. And so when Rye and Lynette reached out to me about directing this piece, I was like, you know what? Yes, I got time. Like, let's make it happen. And it just so happens that it's Black and sci-fi and kind of futuristic. So it's definitely my vibe.
Well, it was interesting as he was explaining the story. I mean, I just feel like this is a story that's such a sign of the times. I use the term zeitgeist a lot here because I think a lot of what we're seeing in terms of works of art are always that, right? They're telling of where we are like right now.
Yeah.
But this is really interesting because we have two different perspectives happening on stage at the same time.
Yeah.
How are you able to bring the characterization out from two different perspectives going on when, you know, it's like the end of the world, basically? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so there's this character called DJ Flow Sister who, when I originally read the script and had a conversation with Chris myself, I said to him, I feel like Flow is the Bible to me. The way that you wrote this character in my personal life, I feel like God, the universe, whomever it is, has always shown up as Black women to me. So when I read DJ Flow, I was like, oh, this is very much that vibe. It's that like, hey, I can be a cool aunt, but also don't cross me in the wrong way kind of vibe. So there's that perspective that's happening. And Flo is this character who, when you're looking for the things that you need, Flo is the one who has them. And so at the other perspective of it are these characters who are just like, we're just trying to make it day by day. And they get to a point to where they're like, we don't know if there actually is another day. And so the space actually helps a lot with perspective because they're in two different spaces the entire time. And it's almost like a runway, so the audience is getting to watch both perspectives happening at the same time, and always wondering whether they're going to connect. And I'll just leave that up to seeing the show, whether you actually know if they connect or not. So.
Well, this for me is one of those things where I mean, I feel like we've been having a lot of shows that have been like, how do we bring new age stories to main stage?
Yeah.
And I am living for it. Like, I love this idea of let's bring like a new age way of doing something to the stage. I also think it's, as I was telling Chris, like there's something around characterization for me that it sounds like that's the heart of this story, right? I mean, it's like you just said, it's the characters.
It's all about the characters, and he leaves a lot up to the actors to decide what you want to bring into that piece. Post-pandemic, we've seen a lot of what I call fluff musicals or fluff plays, where people are just like, I just want to feel good. I want to feel happy. And it's like, I get it. Like, that's real. But for this, I love that he actually wrote this during the pandemic, because it's almost a little bit of the experience of the Black experience through the pandemic, of knowing that, like, we saw what was happening. We were living it day by day. You can turn the news on and off. I can't turn my life on and off. So I'm living that experience every day. And so that is also bathed into this script. There's a specific monologue that Simeon gives where he talks about, they just packed up and left. Like, all the rich white people got on a spaceship and they packed up and they left us. And he's like, why don't they care about us? And for me, I was like, that was a question the entire time I was directing. I kept asking, like, why do people not care about us? And what is it that we have to say and portray in this play to make people get that and understand that, like, we are humans too. We are living and trying to thrive just like everyone else is. And so it's just like, it's bittersweet, right? Because there's a part of it where you're like, yes, that thing for us as Black humans. And then there's a part of it where you're just like, but also, like, the reality of the situation is that this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're living in, and this is what we have. And so seeing those characters in that desperation and in those moments of, like, we want more, but we don't know how to actively get more, is just really hard. But also the actors that are playing those parts are, like, holding down the fort. They're doing the thing.
Well, you know, that's really the key, right? Because you can have a really great character and you can have it flop completely if the person doesn't understand so much of the nuance. But that's also, I think, the work of you as director, right? To bring it out. And there's so much that can be done with things that are not written in the script, right? I mean, especially with live theater, you have all of the emotion that comes through in body, in movement, in the eyes, in the stage management, right? And how they're moving about the stage. There's a lot that can be done there. How were you able to utilize kind of some of those spatial elements to also draw this story home? Yeah,
so the space works for us as an advantage and a disadvantage. One of them, the advantage being that, like, you can put people in two different worlds and allow them to, like, fully live. The disadvantage is that we're not in a traditional theater setting. So there's no, like, backstage. Getting characters on and off stage was kind of like, how do we make this work? One of those being is the first entrance of characters. They kind of just enter right through the house. And they're in space, in time, living as those characters as they enter through the house. The opening night, I watched some audience members be like, oh, like, we're in this. Like, we're in it. And I'm like, yes, you're very much as a part of the show as the actors are. And so in that, right, that was a little bit tough and difficult. The actors are managing that and they're working that. But what I do love about it, in those conversations with Chris, part of that management is, I'd say, we've kind of hit a stumbling block. I kind of have an idea of what I think might happen with this character. The actors have an idea of what they think might, but there's nothing in the script right now to tell us the exact definition of that thing. And so we just email Chris and be like, hey, like, what's your thoughts? What do you think about this? And he would give a little bit more insight, and that would kind of help to fluff out and form the story. But yeah, there were some challenging, some difficult points as in directing the piece and knowing that it is up for interpretation. The actors that are in this show, some of them, it's their first time. They've never acted in this capacity. And so I had to take all of my theater knowledge and terms and be like, let's throw this out the window, break this down in layman terms and speak to these people just how I'd speak to anybody day to day if I'm talking about theater.
Well, that's really intriguing, but I gotta say that I'm seeing almost a trend of, like, this collaborative environment when it comes to bringing plays to the stage and really allowing the actors to be a part of the entire character, like the embodiment of the character, which didn't exist, honestly, when I was in theater. Like, it just didn't exist. It's that seems like an anomaly.
You're going to do what you're told.
Yeah, like this is the role, this is the movement, right? And
don't change it from what it's done.
Yeah, I mean, if you're used to that traditional theater, tell us about how the collaborative environment kind of allows for the story to have a different layer.
Yeah, like my honest answer to that is that post-pandemic, we're not making theater the same way that we were before. Sure, some of the steps are the same, blocking, all of that stuff, the language around that is the same, but really the way that we're handling and dealing with people, the way that we talk to people is completely different. Good theater should always be a collaborative effort. As an actor, you should always be allowed to make a choice and to do that thing first. If your director's not allowing you to do that, in my personal opinion, I don't think that they're actually directing, they're just being a dictator. But yeah, so that's part of it, is that I'm like, great, I can give you a given circumstance, but I need you to figure out like what are the choices that you're making as this character to get through this circumstance, and allowing you to do so without jumping in and stopping you. And I agree, I've been in those settings before, pre-pandemic, where we'd be like, okay, so I'm just a body. I'm doing exactly what you need me to do. But with new works, it's always really great because there is nothing laid out for these people. They just get to make it up themselves. And so that's literally what they're just doing right now.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it too. And I think that it also provides an additional pathway to tell older stories or like known stories in a new way too, right?
Yes.
Like where, you know, we can take this different spin on it. Yeah, we can add these elements and it doesn't take away from the story, but it adds to it. So I'm really intrigued by this, and I can't wait to you got to make sure I get there.
Listen, you got to come and check it out. And I agree with you. I think that is definitely a thing. I know that you interviewed Portia Shaw when she was playing Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And to me, I love just honestly, just putting a Black human in that role immediately changes the story, right? Because our given circumstances are completely different than what's written. But actually, pre-pandemic, Denver Center of Performing Arts was doing an all-Black version of Oklahoma.
Wow.
And I had previously worked with the person who was choreographing that show, Dominique Kelly. And so I went back and like looked up clips, and I was like, this is insane that it's the exact same story, but the circumstances can completely change when you put people of color into those positions and allow us to tell a story in the way that we want to tell a story. And so you're seeing a lot of that, where people are going back and doing traditional things. We're looking at The Wiz right now that's on Broadway. It's the same story that it's been, but when you allow people to add more creativity and new direction behind that, it can completely change a classic that you love.
Yeah. And, you know, to be honest, I think it's an awesome way to also draw newer audiences in. I think, you know, my son got really excited when The Wiz was here at Fifth Avenue Theater, right? Like he got really excited because he was like, man, I watched Michael Jackson like as the Scarecrow, right? So like this whole world was opening up for him in terms of like creativity. And then we went and saw it, and he was like, yo, like that's, you know, like, oh man, and that was Diana Ross. Like, so he got to like experience, because then I was like, I'm taking you to The Wiz, so we're gonna watch The Wiz, right? Because it's like, you gotta have that context. But this is really exciting. I'm so glad that you're able to like give us some of these details about what's going on behind the scenes with this amazing show. Of course, we gotta hear it from you, you know, how folks can tap in and come and see and support. Look right there, let them know how they do it.
Yeah, you can check us out on Instagram or any social media that you have, The Underground Theater. You can search The Underground Theater, put that in a Google will be your best friend. Put that in your engine search and search it, look us up, buy tickets, come and see it. We're over at Base Camp Studios. That's it. It's Artist Studios. We're in the basement of their studios. We run through May 12th.
Wow.
Come and see us.
Brodrick, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Oh, wow, y'all. We're going to continue in these feel-good vibes right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Let's start the show. What's up, everybody? Trae Holiday here with a special announcement. Something sexy for the city is coming to our town, Tacoma Dome, May 3rd. You want to get your tickets today because you want to see Ashanti, Monica, Maya, Kiki Wyatt, and Anne Marie. Y'all, I have the pleasure of emceeing this phenomenal concert. Join me and get your tickets today for an epic performance from these R&B divas.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Up next, we got Arlene Hampton in the building. What's up, Arlene?
How are you? I'm just excited to be here, to be in your presence. Let me just start off by saying this. I just so appreciate how you show up in community. When I see you, you have this infectious energy about you, this just beautiful spirit. So whenever I see you come into spaces, I know it's going to be a thing. It's going to be you showing love and love being shown back to you. And it's going to be a purpose. It's going to be, you come in a room with intent. So can I just start off top by saying thank you for being the voice. Thank you for making space for Black voices. And I'm just so excited to be here with you.
Yeah, well, look, like now you're going to make sure our week is ending off on a really great
feel good.
Thank you.
Feel good.
But it's really true for you as well. I mean, you have your hand in a lot of different buckets of things that are going on in the city. And I just want to talk about your background a bit because you have found a way to bring your brilliance to this, to that, to this, to that. And I think that's what our community needs. And so when we understand that call, we come to it. That's really what you're describing me as. But I see it in you too. Tell us about some of that background that got you to be tied to community in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It started at a young age in Pioneer Square. It was Thanksgiving. My mom had cooked this big, huge spread. And then my dad packs it up. And my mom's like, wait, what are you doing with the food? He's like, come on, you'll see. And we lived up north in Linwood at the time. And we drove all the way to Pioneer Square here in Seattle. And we began handing out the food. And I was really young, like maybe 11 years old. And my dad was like, I want to show you what giving back and what being thankful is really about. So I always say that was my first day of work. And I remember we were running out of food and my younger brother, rest in peace, was like, Dad, we're running out of food and the people are coming. And he runs to the corner store and gets some bologna and bread and we just kept the business going. So that was the awakening. That was the moment where I realized that there's a need in the community. There are actually people living in parks and don't have a home who we need to share. And years later, my dad opened up the first family shelter in the Central District in Seattle. And I worked there in my teens. It was called United Mission Seattle. So again, it was an awakening, a time where I was able to realize again that there was need and that I grew up in this family where, the way we showed our gratitude for what we have and the resources that we have is to give, is to share. So it definitely became a way of life. Certainly a way of life for me. And then it became a career for me. And 30 plus years, I know I'm dating myself, but 30 plus years later, here I am still doing the work. And I like to refer to myself as an ambassador of change, a change agent.
Yeah. We need change agents in the world, especially at a time where I think there's so much of a need to not only showcase the brilliance that is behind change, but how change benefits everyone.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we talk a lot about, communities of need or those who have been most disproportionately harmed. We use all these terms to really denote there are some ethnic backgrounds and ethnic communities that really are dealing with the wide variety of things in a different way than other folks. And I love always talking about it as the global majority because I understand like that's really what it is. But also too, there's some inspiration that needs to be had when they see that folks that look like them are those change agents. How have you been able to experience people receiving the love you're pouring out in community?
Well, you know, I often share like, yes, I believe in my gift and my strengths and my Black excellence, but honestly, I feel like I get way more back than I give in. This past year, my dad passed away. He was the last of the living parents, and when I say the grief and loss was deep and still processing, but I tapped into this thing called healing through activism. And I realized, no, yes, if you need to have those moments where you need to grieve alone, but for me, being able to carry on his legacy, being able to carry on the family legacy, and continue to do what I love to do was the way that I was able to and continue to cope through it, and to get through it. And again, just seeing the incredible need. It's a lot of work to be done, but at the same time, while I'm out there giving out and pouring in, individuals pour into me. I've met some of the most amazing, the most courageous, the most resilient. I mean, the stories that I hear just from the trauma to the triumph to the testimony is amazing, and it has me. It reminds me to be grateful and to be thankful, and it's an exchange. It's a two-way for sure.
Yeah, that symbiosis is real, right? Like you're benefiting from all of the amazingness that you're experiencing as well, which is so key. It's interesting because I think too, when we talk about like losing a parent, I lost my father, now what has it been, a year ago, two years? Oh my gosh, time flies. But it's interesting because I think for me, there was something that when you say healing through activism, I just kept this node in my head about how my dad was experiencing me in the last few years. Like, I mean, more than a few, but how he's been experiencing me in those deep conversations we used to have about how proud he was of the stuff that I was doing and how I had to continue doing that, right? Like, so true. And there was so much healing in that because honestly, I believe like our spirits can't die, right? These vessels do, but the spirit carries on. And the idea that my father, can still like experience what I'm doing is so important. I think about that for all of our ancestors and how rooted it has allowed me to be in community. So I just really appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of folks don't understand, like there's something so powerful about, not that you have to be strong and don't cry, or that's not what I'm saying, but there's something powerful about being like, you know what, like I'm gonna use that fuel that I got from all of these amazing interactions I had with my loved one who passed away, whoever they were in your life, and I'm gonna use it for the benefit of others. I'm gonna use it for the good. There's something so special about that. When you think about the young folks, right? I mean, community is intergenerational. We got old, young, we got all the folks. How important is it for you to be setting an example for others who are coming up behind you, who are like, man, I need to find my way too. I need to figure it out.
It is extremely important for us not to just tell them, but to show them, to help create those paths, as we think about our elders and the ones who paved the way, we look around and go, wait, I'm up next, I got next, right? In looking at that, it is an honor and privilege to be able to be in that role and for individuals to see you in that role. I call myself auntie. I'm auntie to everyone, whether it's by blood, whether it's by love, I'm auntie. If I see you somewhere and you need something, and especially the youth, I just love, this generation that we have here, and they call it the data natives. They grew up in this age of technology and everything computerized and digital. And so being able to just connect with them even on that, like, show me how to do this again, show me how to connect to this platform again, and making that the connection, and then using that to be able to connect on other things and other matters, and sharing that experience, sharing wisdom. And once again, it's transformative, so while we're sharing and giving, we're learning an incredible amount of information from the youth as well. So I love it. I have to have that time where I love spending with the elders, But then there's this time where I love, and there's a need to be able to spend time with the youth as well, and what I get out of that, and of course keeping me moving and keeping me young. So there's that part. I gotta show them the old school dances. They show me the new stuff that they doing, and then I'm like, no, this is dancing. This is when music was music. I'm gonna show you how to do the old school dances.
I think that carries on from generation to generation, right? Like almost every time they're like, well, what is this music y'all listening to?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a real thing. And it's so funny when I'm listening to my son's music and I found myself like on the verge of being like, what is this?
Yeah.
I realized, it's things are surpassing me at this point, right? It's no longer, because I feel like my dad was such he loved all the music. So we listened to the same stuff. Even, of course, he did love some of the old stuff, but he was like on with the new stuff. I cannot get on with this new stuff. So I love you saying that, but also just having you here on this Feel Good Friday is a great reminder of what it means to be a part of community. And so I just thank you for the work that you're doing and for the love you're pouring into community. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Y'all, look at this Feel Good Friday energy. I'm going to wrap it all up right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Seattle, Rose City, Big Boise, Spokane, T-Town. I see you every weekend on Back to Besa. And of course, I'm bringing you stories from all over the PNW. You already know your girl's keeping it real everywhere I go. And of course, you can stream current episodes right now on the Fox Local app, available on your smart TV.
Looking for laughs? Looking for love? Fast Talking Figaro has got you covered. Toe-tapping melodies, lively staging, and colorful costumes. Don't miss The Barber of Seville, May 4th through 19th at McCall Hall. Tickets at seattleopera.org.
Hello, welcome to Elite Insights with Carlos Imani. We're looking to offer an in-depth look at event production industry through the lens of client experiences and joint successes. The podcast will emphasize guest interviews, focusing on client discussing their fields and reflecting on their collaboration with Elite Collective. Again, you're with Elite Insights. Carlos Imani here. I'll see you guys in a few.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. What a great Feel Good Friday. Huge shout out to my guest, Mr. Brodrick. I'm excited to see, brown bodies on a blue earth. This is really interesting because it is a sign of the times. There's a lot of talk about what folks are doing with underground bunkers and what's going to happen with the sun and what's going to happen with the earth. And I'm telling you, you definitely want to get your tickets. Go ahead and go to the Underground Theater and find your tickets to this amazing show happening until May 12th. Huge shout out to Arlene Hampton for being here, just showcasing another example of what it means to be in community, to be loving on our people. And this is a message I want to leave y'all with. You can do it too. Okay, be inspired, because there are ways to tap in. No matter who you are, tap into your community, your neighborhood, the folks that are around you, the folks that are where you grew up from, right? If you no longer live in that area, don't feel, like you can't go back. Tap back in to that original community who brought you up, because I promise you, when we are all inspired to be a part of the solution, we make a better world. Thank y'all so much for watching this week. For me, until Monday at 11 a.m., y'all. Peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences.
Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.